Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the developer sessions here at EGX 2017. Hello to everyone watching online, and hello to everyone in the audience. This room is absolutely packed. Hello. It's truly an audience worthy of Mordor. Anyway, Shadow of War is what you're here to see, so I'm going to get off the stage and just let you see it. But would you do me a solid and please give a very welcoming round of applause to Bob and Ellie from the Shadow of War team.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm Bob Roberts. I'm the design director at Monolith on Shadow of War. This is Ellie. She's going to do horrible things to orcs for a little while for your entertainment. No offense, guys. Yeah. So we're going to show you guys some of the open world Nemesis sandbox here. We've talked a lot about fort assaults and the epic scale sieges that we build up to, but we haven't spent as much time going into the sandbox and looking at all the opportunities the Nemesis system offers to build up to that point. So we're going to start with the army screen here and give you guys an overview of, you've got the new overlord at the very top center of the fortress here. It's like this one is Ozran's the Destroyer. So every time you play the game, every time you start this, start up a new save, you're going to have a completely randomly generated set of enemies here. The Nemesis system, you know, at its core, works the same way as it did in Mordor. Procedurally generated guys, their names, their looks, their strengths and weaknesses. Though this guy has a terror. What can we exploit if we get in there and fight him? More guy flies. That's tough. That's tough to come by inside an Overlord's keep. He probably doesn't stock the thing he's afraid of most. So in order to take him out, we have to complete the fortress assault. That's a huge, insane battle. And the fortress is stocked with all these defenses guarded by the war chiefs on the pedestals here. So it looks like we know about a couple of them already. We can go around the world and gather intel to learn about their strengths and weaknesses and who they are. But right now we know Takra, the head lopper. It's got one right on top there. Also terrified of flies and ghouls and weak to beasts. So we could call in our beast friends to help if we go after him. And then there's a lot of flies going around today. Pushcrimp the Hellhawk. So we can go after these war chiefs and try and defeat them ahead of time to weaken the fortress. So if we were to go straight at the fortress assault right now, it's going to be all 6 of these war chiefs with all their bodyguards. It's an insane battle. There's so many boss fights simultaneously. You can do that if you want. You're just almost certainly going to die, unless you're Ellie. She can pull it off sometimes. But since we have a little more time, we want to go deeper into the other side of the Nemesis system. We can pick one of these guys off ahead of time and walk you through some of the different strategic options that are available there. So first, because we like to be more entertained and surprised ourselves when we're showing the game off, we're going to try and let you guys decide some of the points along the way here. So should we go after Takra the Headlopper first, or Pushcrimp the Hellhawk? Anybody? Hellhawk. Hellhawk. Okay, I heard more Hellhawks. So we'll mark him. Now, we can see he's got a bodyguard who's also going on his own mission at the moment. So again, the next step down, if we go after the Hellhawk, we can draw him out by killing his warriors inside the fortress without triggering the alarm. They've all got their conditions that are usually unique to what makes them who they are, that draws them out into the open, but that's inside the fortress, surrounded by a million enemies and his bodyguard alongside him. If we go another step down, we could pick off the bodyguard ahead of time. We could send some of our own followers to infiltrate and become bodyguards alongside him. Maybe we should even try that. Maybe we should try sending I'm just picking things to do here. Let's go with Mountain Eater. Let's try and make Mountain Eater a bodyguard of that war chief before we take him on. So if you highlight the war chief, you know, you could send him on a mission to kill the bodyguard. You'd have a little help going after the bodyguard. You could send him up to become a spy and become a bodyguard of the war chief, so you'd have somebody there to stab him in the back when you go after him. What should we do? Should we send him to kill the bodyguard or become a spy? Spy. Pretty universally spy. All right. So that's going to make a mission where he has to go prove himself. So these are new missions in Shadow of War where they're going to go into the fight pits and fight amongst themselves. You can't get involved as Talion. This is going to be a spectator sport for you. So we got to go see if our Olag captain can defeat whatever orc is put up against to prove himself as a powerful bodyguard of the war chief. So Ellie's going to make her way there using some of the new traversal skills. Oh, man. You're going to combo it all up? Look at that. Okay, so she's using the rhythmic climbing to speed up the walls, double jumping out to get extra distance, and then she did the Talon Strike to dive straight forward right up next to the mission here. Take out that archer, and then we can start and look into the fight pits and see how our man does. Arhisu the Mountain Eater versus Tugog the Dreamer.
Now you will taste defeat! Stop babbling and get to fighting! It's all a dream!
All right, so our guy is much higher level. He's got a gang with him. He's got this little archer. It looks like he's going to succeed handily here. Look at that. Nice. All right, that took no time at all. So now that Mountain Eater has defeated this guy in the pits in front of everybody, he's infiltrated as a spy. He's also leveled up. Fight pits are a nice place to grow in power as well. And we got the gear from the guy he killed too. So, all right, now let's back out and go after our war chief. There we go. So now Hellhawk has 2 bodyguards, one of whom is going to be more helpful than the other. Nice.
I smell something!
All right, so to draw him out, we're going to kill his warriors without triggering the alarm. This is another one of those missions that at first it might sound like a stealth mission, and you can totally play it that way. But around the studio, we have people who like to try and accomplish it different ways. One of my friends is obsessed with always doing it head on into battle and
Show
just...
this war chief the uselessness of his defenses by killing his orcs before they can sound the alarm.
If you juggle the guys trying to raise the alarm, you can kind of get everyone's attention, but never let the alarm go off. We'll see how Ellie decides to handle this.
Get around, torching our supplies. We've got to stop them.
Going for the optional objective. You see her shadow striking around. You can use the enemies as quick traversal points. Collect some ammo. Whoops. You can also shadow strike into the fire pits and create these explosions. Looks like Ellie's going to sneak around. Oh, maybe you can pull off a chain. These guys. There you go. Nice. Some new stealth options to have Celebrimbor manifest more and chain out into these other guys. One more. Nice.
Glory to the bright Lord!
All right, so I'll head over there and help our bodyguard take him out. We can also set guys as bodyguards for Talion that you can call in at any moment. Whoa.
Ranger's wings bring him flight. But at what cost? The cost to those around him. The cost to himself. The time has come for this debt to be paid. Death's wings beat, and its eyes are focused squarely on you.
Nice. Oh, what? Where'd that Drake come from?
Get away from the fire!
Oh my god. Okay. The Drake distraction there gave us enough time to go ahead and dominate and recruit this guy. So we have another set of options here. So we can release him and just fight him to the death and kill him and collect his gear. We can recruit him into the army and add him to our ranks, bring him to the assault, send him on other missions. Or we can shame him, which levels him down and may or may not make him completely lose his mind. So what do you guys want to do? Kill him, shame him, or recruit him? Shame. Okay, we'll shame him. Okay, so shaming has counts as a defeat here. He has lost 5 levels from having been shamed. Importantly, for the fort assault, we've disabled the Caragors that he was bringing to the defensive side. So now we also have a hole that's been created in the hierarchy at that war chief level, which opens up some new possibilities for us. Oh. Okay, how about just another possibility? If we recruit his bodyguard that just flipped out, then we could send him on another mission.
Tasty, 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 tasty.
Okay, command. Let's do command. Okay, so again, we can send him to become a bodyguard of another spy. Now that there's an empty war chief slot, we can send him to try and prove himself to the Overlord to become a spy war chief, which will open up some other opportunities for us. He'll be on the inside for the fort assault. That'll make the assault quite a bit easier. We can also send him after the other war chiefs and create these pitched battles where they're all bringing their bodyguards to bear. We could send him after another bodyguard of one of the other war chiefs as we work towards weakening somebody else. Is somebody else on a Nemesis mission down there? We've got, yeah, that guy. Yeah, let's send him to ambush that guy's mission. So again, the Nemesis characters are out in the world doing their own missions, leveling up, growing and changing, and there's more influence that the events and interactions in Shadow of War have over shaping who these guys are. Their personalities can transform much more deeply, and they can gain new traits and new titles and become different kinds of characters based on what kinds of missions they're doing and what kinds of interactions you have with them. So we send this guy to ambush one of the other bodyguards' missions, so we can go over and help him take out another enemy here. Oh, there's the broken Drake right behind you. Quick traversal. Nice. We'll fly over.
Sauron's domain is now much smaller.
So we'll take this Drake ride over to the start point for this Nemesis mission. Now, as you're flying the Drakes around, you can breathe fire, you can pick up enemies and carry them off and drop them into the lava or eat them and get a little health back. Of course, we can just dismount wherever we want and go into range from up there, shadow strike down. Let's see what Tasty does to this bodyguard.
Whatever else happens in this war, this archway is not falling to the enemy. You can bet on that.
Rip them to pieces and take control of that road.
Taste it! Taste it! Taste it! It's so fantastically tasty!
All right, so this was a mission between these two enemy orcs, but our guy's going to come in and ambush, and we can use that distraction to help take them out too. If we go into the Wraith world, we can see their strengths and weaknesses. So since we haven't gained intel ahead of time about this other guy involved, we don't know what he's weak to, but we know what he's capable of.
Arsaku.
The guy we did know about, we can capitalize on. Stealth would be a good approach. He's dazed by that. Beast fodder, we can call in our beasts as well to help us, and using poison. It's like Ellie's equipped a higher end upgrade where you can call a Graugen. All right, we've got these guys broken, and before our Graug goes crazy and kills everybody, come down and take some more prisoners. So now if we recruit a bodyguard, a guy who's already a war chief's bodyguard, it helps us shortcut that spy creation process. So there's a little bit of a streamlining if you pick off the bodyguards as the ones you recruit. If you get some other guy, you can send them to prove themselves. That's always a bit of a gamble. So let's recruit this guy and...
Swear loyalty to the Bright Lord! I serve you, Bright Lord!
So now we have the option to just go ahead and make him a spy immediately without having to go through the fight pit mission and proving. All right. So we dominated one guy. The other guy is considered the winner of this Nemesis mission, so he leveled up a little bit, but he's right here in front of us if we want to kill him or take him on. Oh, but he's very angry. Looks like our friend took him out. Okay, so how much time do we have? 5 minutes? All right, well, let's jump over to the Fort Assault real quick. We'll get in there. We won't have time to take the whole thing down in 5 minutes probably, but you can get a taste of what this all builds up to, even though we haven't done enough prep work to really destroy the place beforehand. Stylish. All right, so you can see our army over there. Ellie's going to purchase some upgrades for the assaulting team. You can see the enemy war chiefs over there. If you'd installed spies, you would see them hanging out on that side. All the upgrades that they bring with them, so you can inspect which things you're particularly afraid of and try and pick off those war chiefs ahead of time. We're going to bring a bunch of guys over here with a Drake and siege beasts and Karagor riders and go after this fortress. You get a little taste. It'll still be pretty challenging.
Poor fall to man. I think he should go back there, because here he finds real fight. Here he finds death. We forge weapons of war. We are weapons of war.
The lads are ready, my lord.
If he thought he could scare us with words, he's wrong. And if he thought he was gonna survive this, there goes double!
So you can see a couple of our captains have been dazed out front. That means their weaknesses are being preyed upon here. If we were being really meticulous, we could make sure our army is ready to go for whatever the strengths of the enemy team were throwing at them. But in the meantime, Ellie's mounted the siege beast up there, turned him against their own team here, diving into one of the capture points to start trying to capture this fortress.
You're not taking one more step into this fort.
But you can see it's still guarded by the war chief and his bodyguards. Oh, she's going to unleash Elven Rage and work them down quick, huh? Whoa. Look out, he's throwing out grenades.
Go for the wings! This is just one battle. You will lose the war.
Oh, hello. Execution. Oh no. They destroyed the wall while our guy was on top, so that's unfortunate. Usually as an attentive master, you can rescue the guys as they bleed out through the fight. Does put you at a little more risk, though.
You're gonna die here. You will not. Push forward to the square. Hold it right. Touching the incoming fire! These beasts! Don't stop! Siege attacks! Take cover!
The tide is turning against you. A tide of Uruk iron. I'm gonna slice open your veins and drench the ground with your blood.
We're done talking. It's time to start killing.
So we've got a bunch of different advanced classes this time around that the Nemesis enemies can all grow into. Last time it was kind of the all strengths, no weaknesses pinnacle for each guy, but now we have, oh, about to fail, and here comes Tasty to save us. Wow. Thanks, Tasty.
So tasty.
I mean, to be fair, that was actually pretty tasty. Jeez. Just going to... So the advanced classes mean that the captains can grow to be all these different archetypes, like trackers who lay down traps for you that she just got caught in, the tricksters who are evasive, smoke bombing around, the tanks absorbing lots of damage and healing. There's a bunch of different ways that they can grow into these boss fights that are very different from each other at the very late endgame stages. Man, you guys are doing a lot of work. Okay. All right, since we're almost out of time, we're not going to make it to the end of this. Let's just take a dive and let this guy win. No saviors this time? Okay, there we go.
You can talk.
Suppose that makes me a top killer. No.
Talk Slayer.
I quite like the sound of that.
Talk Slayer. From now on, I will be known as the Talk Slayer.
So it's fairly important for us to let you guys know how death is such a critical mechanic that if you're not dying, you're not getting the best the Nemesis system has to offer. It's about these rivalries and relationships and the fact that that random grunt who is one of the hundreds of orcs running around as what would otherwise be cannon fodder there now has a name and a title and strengths and weaknesses, and you can hunt him back down and go after him. And this time around, there's so much more depth to the relationships that you can build with that guy or with your followers like that. Tasty, we've already got a nice little story going with him in just a few minutes of showing off the game here. So hopefully you got a little sense of all the different possibilities that can emerge dynamically. It's so much fun to do these demos live where we can roll a fresh hierarchy and just let the game do its thing and see where it takes us and just react. So thanks for coming and filling this room up and watching us kill some orcs for you.
Hello again. Thanks so much to Ellie for a great gameplay demo. I think we can all agree that that indeed was very, very tasty. Anyway, so there's a lot of depth to the Nemesis system now, turns out. Like, that was a lot to take in. So I'm just going to fire some questions off at you to kind of help make sense of all of it. I guess first and foremost, you did touch briefly on the advanced classes, but could you tell us a bit more about how you diversified the enemy pool in Shadow of War?
Yeah, so in a dynamic system, and you're procedurally building these characters, there's the combinations that can emerge are really important. So last time we had those base classes, the Defender and the Savages and the Archers. Now, if you layer onto that any of those guys can become any one of the advanced classes, and you get, the Destroyer advanced class who's throwing these grenades out. If he's an archer and he's keeping his distance and firing explosive arrows and throwing things at you, that's a different fight from if he's a defender up in your face with the shield, throwing bombs at your feet and blocking things around. So those mixing and matching of elements can make for a lot broader variety, and then going deeper with more of the strengths and weaknesses. You can see in the UI that we expanded how many strengths and weaknesses the guys can have, so they can make much richer combinations. And as they grow, we don't have to take something off the list to add something new for there to be space for it. They can just really grow.
I mean, so talking actually about the sort of the expanded slots for traits, there are quite a lot more of them in this game, right? I mean, how do the new traits influence the gameplay?
Yeah, so it's a conversation back and forth between different mechanics and areas of the game, right? You have new skills that we designed for Talion that influence new traits that we need. We start to find a pattern, a strategy while we're developing that turns out to be too effective all the time, and we start to design okay, well, which guys should be the ones who really challenge you if you fall into that pattern and make you switch it up, right? And allowing Talion to upgrade his skills in different ways, but in this sort of exclusive way of you have to choose between various options at any given moment. So you might spec out a build that's really good against guys with, let's say a weakness to spiders. And you spec out that skill that lets you summon some spiders. And then you run into a guy who is enraged by poison, and you need to turn that back off and switch to something else that's not going to make him way tougher. And the same thing, adding more beast types to the world, that's more fodder for, well, how should these guys react to them? And which advanced classes or personalities or types of guys should be really strong against those versus weak to them, and letting that stuff kind of inform each other around the different mechanics of the game.
Right, and I guess with so many sort of moving parts in this procedurally sort of generated system, where do you draw the line with balance? Because I think everyone here who played Shadow of Mordor will have encountered one enemy that they just couldn't kill because they were nigh on invincible, right? At what point do you say, yeah, maybe we'll hem that in?
Well, so we do have combinations that we will find throughout development that are literally impossible. And we'll make sure that the literally impossible guy doesn't exist. So if you bump into a guy that you are finding very overwhelming, you can at least be relatively sure that there is a way to take him down. You just have to figure it out. And that's the pinnacle moments for people from the last game too. The most exciting stories we read online afterwards were those orcs that were just brutal, and the rivalries that develop there are the most emotionally salient, and they give you the opportunity for the biggest payoff when you finally figure out how to deal with that guy. You come up with a strategy, you implement it correctly, and you take vengeance. Like that's one of the best moments in the game. So we didn't want to cut that off and like sand the edges off too much. It's nice to have some spikiness in there of really tough guys and that guy that you learned his weakness, but maybe you forgot and you accidentally trigger it, and before you know it, he's running away terrified. And getting the flavor of all those different types of encounters is part of what makes the world come to life.
And of course, like those enemies, rather, they can evolve and change themselves. Like so, the Tark Slayer that you just created there, we won't necessarily stay the Tark Slayer, right? Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so this time around they have a lot deeper web of possibilities of how they evolve and grow, and how reactive that is to your interactions with them and your history with them. And you can really transform these guys into proper supervillains. Like they will become totally defined by the things you're doing to them, especially if you get really sadistic and you have some really repetitive pattern of like, you want to really drill this idea into the guy. He'll probably react to that and become a twisted, personification of that problem that you're probably working out.
Sure. So the demo we just saw, it took place in Gorgoroth, that's right?
Yes.
Which was first shown off at Gamescom.
Right, yeah.
So I guess tell us a bit more about some of the regions we can expect in the game. So I've seen, from trailers and streams and stuff, that there are a lot of different environments that you can sort of encounter.
Yeah, so we have 5 different regions this time around. Last game we had 2, so quite a bit more there and a lot more variety within them. You got the human city of Minas Ithil, that's more urban area, the big lush forests in Nirn, the snowy mountaintops in Saragost, the massive cave systems of Carathungel, and then Gorgoroth, obviously the classic Mordor hellish lavascape. And each of those environments is quite a bit bigger, a lot more verticality, hence the need for speed climbing and double jumping across bigger gaps and all the new traversal abilities.
And obviously, the enemies, I mean, we're seeing a bit of it with these screenshots here. The enemies can put their own stamp on the game representing their tribe, right? Could you just talk us through some of the tribes that are in Shadow of War?
Yeah, so the Overlord we were just up against for that Fort Assault was Machine Tribe. So you saw those huge smokestacks at the front of the gates there. And the influence of the tribe will be, like, the visuals of the world will change, the lighting and the fortress and the towers out in the world. They get the flavor of the tribe, but there's also these gameplay benefits or challenges out there depending. So, the Feral tribe, for example, has a lot more beasts roaming the world. You'll see more Caragors and Graugs. There's Drake bait hanging up, the dangling carcasses of drakes they've conquered that you can shoot like bait and summon more drakes if the Feral tribe's in charge, versus like the Marauders are all about money, and so they've got their caches of little treasure chests of Mirian you can loot and pick up around the world, and they've got their loot hordes everywhere. So the opportunities in the world will differ depending on what the tribe of the Overlord is and how that influences things.
And I suppose it puts an emphasis on picking the right Overlord when you're installing one in a fort, right? Because the person you're picking to lead the fort is the person who's going to represent their tribe.
Yeah, and even more than that when you get to the end game, the Shadow Wars, after you finish kind of the main story campaign, we've got this ongoing campaign of defense missions. So who you install as the Overlord and War Chiefs is pretty important for strategizing against the waves that come. But also, once you conquer a fort, whoever you put in charge is now uploaded as the fortresses for other players online to assault in the online conquest. So just by kind of cultivating your fortress full of tasties, then you've just made a tasty fort for someone else to defeat online, who are just going to get riddled with tasty.
Got it. Okay, well, thank you again so much for fielding these questions and for showing us the game. It really... Okay. Seems to be a little bit of a stage invasion going on, which is orcs. Urukai. Right. Well, if there's one thing I know about presenting on stage shows, it's when a bunch of armed dudes invade, it's time to wrap things up. Yeah. So before I presumably get butchered, could you all please just give another massive round of applause for Bob and Ellie?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Cheers. I'm going to go this way.